Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday. This is a trial run, but I mean, it just is what it is. My buddy been telling me, man, you got a story, man. You need to share it with some people, with the world. So all I know is to make a video and try to post it. This is a testimony, you know, about God's power. This is the day, one of the days, I met an angel. So I come from drugs and the streets, hanging out, selling drugs out there, and I think I got saved around when I was 30 years old. I'm 53 now. I was 30 years old. I was on my way to prison. I gave my life to the Lord, and He changed my life. I started studying His Word and stuff like that, and needless to say, once I got out of prison, I backslid and went back to the streets and all that type of stuff, drugs, and I lived in California for about 18 years. I'm currently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I was in California, homeless, living on the streets. At this time, I had took a trip to Santa Cruz, California. Didn't really take a trip. The girl that I was dating at that time, she was selling her body, prostitute out there in the streets. She robbed a date, robbed a trick, and stole his car, brought it back to me, and we took the car and drove to Santa Cruz, California. She also took some money from me, and we were on our way to Santa Cruz. Well, we were on our way to LA because we could get drugs down there cheap. So for the amount of money that she had, maybe $1,500, we could have just came up, off just spending $1,000, and came back, and with the little hustle I had, I wouldn't have been able to use that many drugs. I'd have been on top. Anyway, long story short, we get pulled over by the police. She take the case. Of course, she did it, but she didn't get me involved in it. She took the case. Told the police it was her that did all the stuff, and then they put me out of the car. They locked me up for the night, and the next morning they released me. At this time, I had a heroin addiction and crack. I smoked heroin. No, I smoked crack and used heroin. Put heroin in my veins. So the next morning, when I was released from jail in Santa Cruz, mind you, I'm from Champaign, Illinois, so I don't know anybody in Santa Cruz. They released me downtown. I start walking around, asking people if they knew, where to get some drugs from. They told me, to go to the other side of the bridge. You don't want to go to that area. Well, that area was the boardwalk, and it was popping over there. A lot of drugs, a lot of Mexican, Northaniels and Surdaniels, Northerners and Southerners, Mexican gang. It was a lot of Southerners there, Sir Daniels. And I went over there. I had a few pieces of jewelry. Sold the jewelry. Got me some drugs, needless to say. Made some friends. And I wound up staying in Santa Cruz for 3 to 4 months. I was homeless, sleeping up under a bush. Using needles, doing drugs through needles, and smoking crack. And I would hustle through the day, hustle up on some money, and get my drugs, and that would carry me to the next day. And this cycle went on for day to day. Anyway, long story short, I'm not a licensed doctor. So when I was trying to shoot drugs into my veins, I was shooting drugs into my foot because that was a big vein where I could see. My foot got infected, and I'm walking around limping. It's going on for about 2-3 days. I'm still hustling to get my medicine because, heroin is a physical drug. If you don't get it, you're going to be sick. And with me being on the streets, homeless, I had to get it. I had to sustain my habit. So I'm walking around limping now. This is a time, mind you, that I'm in a backslidden state. I'm backslidden. I got saved when I was 30. When I got out of prison, I relapsed. I went back to the streets, and I moved back out to California. So I went to prison in Illinois. When I got out of prison, I went back to California. I'm in a backslidden state. I know the Lord, but I don't know him to be real, to send angels. So the name of this story today, testimony today, is The Day I Met an Angel. So I'm walking around limping, finally then hustled up on my money and got my drugs and stuff, and I'm making it back to the bush where I slept at. And it was down by a river. It was really peaceful, but I was homeless. I was sleeping outside. So I'm walking down a hill, and I see a guy in a sombrero and a poncho, like the Mexicans, and he had his head down. So he had the sombrero on, he had his head down, and he's sitting off in the cuts, and I'm walking past, and he said, "Hey, amigo, why don't you sit down, rest that foot?" And I don't know, it was dark over there. It was looking strange, looking like it was a graveyard behind him or something. It was dark, but it was daylight over there. And I wasn't scared. So I went over there, sat beside him, and he asked me what was going on. I told him my foot was hurting, and it's all swollen, and he told me on the reservation. Now he still ain't lifted his head up. He kept his head down. I cannot remember his face but I remember this incident. He kept his head down. He told me on the reservation, they used to call me a healer. He said, let me see your foot. And I was kind of like, what you want me to do? He said, take your shoe off. He took my shoe off, pulled my old dirty sock off, and put my foot in his lap, right? We sitting on some stairs. He put my foot in his lap, and he started to rub my foot. As he was rubbing my foot, I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, you see, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And when I heard this in my spirit, I cried and cried and cried because I was in a backslidden state. I had left God. God didn't leave me, right? And I'm crying, I'm bawling in this guy. This guy is rubbing my foot. I'm crying so hard. I mean, snotting and slobbering and I was going through it, right? So, all of that, as he was rubbing my foot. When he finished rubbing my foot, he said, that ought to be good, right? I put my sock back on, put my shoe back on, cleaned my face up. I got up, started walking away from him, right? As I start walking away from him, the pain in my foot started getting less and less and less and less. So after I was about a block away, there was no more pain in my foot, right? I looked back where the person was, no more person. I don't know if he got up and left or if he just disappeared, right? I don't know. Once I got back to the bush where I was, living at, I'm about to get high, do my thing. I couldn't wait to take my shoe off and look at my foot because my foot was swollen before this encounter. I took that shoe off, and when I tell you that my foot was the same size as my other foot, when I tell you the pain was gone, I cried again. I cried again. Because all I could think of was, God, I'm rebelling against you, being blatantly disobedient, and you send an angel to touch my foot, to heal my foot, and to let me know that you will never leave me nor forsake me. Wow, I tell you. So, today is February, maybe it's the 1st? Yeah, maybe it's February 1st, 2024. This is my first testimony, podcast, whatever. It's called The Testimony. And this is the day I met an angel.